I am Jeremiah Grant. I am the, oh, that's right, I had this thing. I am the product manager for animating and rigging in Unreal. My background is in been a character TD, rigger, pipeline TD, all that type of stuff across games and films for almost 20 years now. A lot of fun stuff. I worked on Jurassic World, Fortnite, Star Wars stuff, all a ton of fun things, but it's always been focused on characters and performances. And that brings us to kind of what we're talking about today. We're talking about storytelling. This isn't going to be a technical talk, though we may get a little technical here and there. But what I want to talk about is the process of storytelling and why it needs to change and how it's changing. We're seeing a lot of great content already being created. This stuff is in Unreal, but outside of Unreal as well. It's kind of crazy to see how the industry has evolved. There we go. I got it. It's been insane to see how the industry has evolved, but I don't think storytelling has evolved in the same way. So we're going to talk about why do things need to change, or what's the instigator for this? What does that mean for animators? What does that mean for riggers? Because those two are always connected. And how do you actually get started on this? We're going to take a step back, go through a little moment in my life. I was walking through Disney Worlds a few years ago, and I came across sad Abraham Lincoln there, the animatronic. And then I saw this control board for it, Audio Animatronic Animation Programming Console. They weren't very good at naming back then either. But this is from the 1970s, I believe. And it was incredible to see. I mean, it's like pistons and gears and pulleys and stuff. And this should probably look very familiar to any animators. I was kind of blown away to see that, honestly. However, then I got a little sad because I thought, what has actually changed in 50 years? Like, this is the same panel. This is the same workflows. Sure, maybe it's pulleys and pistons instead of bones and skinning, but at the end of the day, it's kind of still this linear process. It got me thinking, what's actually driving the story? Are we driving the story, or are the tools what's actually driving our creativity? Telling a story, you go from an idea to something on the screen, or all the way to a video game that you're playing. It's often described as kind of this linear process, linear content. But at the end of the day, it is rarely linear. It's tons of micro iterations, not just from idea all the way to final edit, but modeling and rigging, surfacing, modeling, back to concept art. No, wait, we need to rewrite the script. Oh, we added a new character. It's anything but linear. So let's move storytelling into real time. This is what we're talking about pretty much all week. But we have to ask ourselves, why? I mean, look at this amazing stuff. We have Planet of the Apes, we have Troll Hunters, we have Raya and the Last Dragon. This is the type of material that studios are able to produce now. It's reached such a high bar of both breadth of content, the types of concepts that people are able to actually execute, and the fidelity of and depth of the story. So something's working. Like, we're able to continue to evolve in this way. Why throw all that out and restart the process? First off, I don't think we need to rethink the entire process. I don't think that stories are broken. I think storytelling is broken. What we need to do, I believe, and I think a lot of us are kind of on the same page, is we need to start working in context. We need the animators in there with the lighters, with the environment. We need to be able to tell these stories in context. I love this image from Zootopia. We have the panther up in the front, and we have the characters in the back. Now, if I was looking at this when I was working on film, I'd say, so that panther's taken about 50% of the screen. Let's put myself in Maya. I see a gray panther, and I see some gray creatures in the back. I'm like, I'm gonna probably spend a lot of time on this panther. And then maybe go through a lot of animation reviews, maybe do some play blasts or something. You're like, yeah, I nailed it. Got that eye perfect. And then you finally see a render 3 weeks later and notice, oh, it's all black. I didn't even need to spend half my time on that thing. I probably would have spent more time on the characters that are reacting to what's happening in the scene. But you're not able to do that unless you have that information. I like to say animators are essentially actors. Instead of being on a physical stage, they are on a digital stage. And in order for an actor to be in their space, they need to have this space in order to work in. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to put animators at the end of the pipeline, make everything first. I think everyone needs to be making everything together. And I think that not just the characters are the characters, the lighting is contributing to the story too. And the framing is contributing to the story too. Every artist in this is a storyteller. Let me rephrase that. Everyone that is participating in this is a storyteller. And I mean that from programmer to animator to concept artist to the director. And I mean, I could do a show of hands. Let's do a show of hands. How many of you got into entertainment, VFX, games, or something because you just want to punch the clock, maybe fill out some spreadsheets? Yeah, so there's no hands going up, by the way. I just want you to know there are no hands. People get to be into this because they want to be part of storytelling, whether it's linear content, immersive, interactive, whatever it is. You want to create some compelling experience that gets people excited and share that moment with them. Rob Coleman did this fantastic podcast. I recommend it. Most of you probably can't see the tiny little line at the bottom, but he talked about working on the Attack of the Clones, and said he would have animated things differently if he had the information of kind of the sound design or other elements of the environment. He didn't know, and was creatively limited because he didn't have that information. And so only once you get to the end and you see it on the screen, you're like, so that's what they're gonna do with it. I would have changed everything. Like I didn't know that's what we were doing. And it's not just animators that are experiencing this. I mean, there's oftentimes directors that don't even see the final cut until they go to the theater, go to the premiere. This is a shot from the Meerkat that we worked with Weta, I think it's back in 426. And there's this great quote from one of the animators that said, once we put the fur on the meerkat, everything we animated looked like a bear. And you animate a bear a lot different than a meerkat. And so it's a poorly animated bear or a really great animated bald meerkat. One of the two, but you get to choose one, right? No, I think that's completely broken. Another thing, so having worked in film stuff, usually a rigger goes in, you rig the thing, and then you pass it off to Anim. Anim animates it, and then you pass it back to Tech Anim, Creature TD, whatever, and they do muscle simulation, claw simulation, shot sculpting, then you pass it maybe back to a sculpting team. They iterate on it again. How far away from the actor, the animator in that scenario's performance do you think you got from them submitting their shot to 5 departments later of iterations, a different artistic intent individually at their desk making these decisions? Probably pretty far. Slow iteration stifles the art, and it stifles the artist. And I again want to reiterate, everyone here is an artist. Everyone here is a storyteller. The more you get to iterate, the more you're able to refine the story. So oftentimes stories are told that never found the magic moment. In fact, you're just like, oh crap, we gotta get it out the door. And so you just hit submit, it's 3 a.m. and finally you wanna go to bed so you can work on the next shot at 6 a.m. And yeah, I know I'm speaking here kind of in the linear content mentality, but this applies to everything. I've done this on games many a times as well, where you just have to stop working on something because you didn't have time to iterate to the point you would like and move on to the next thing. I think we're gonna wait for rendering here. We're just gonna sit back. Maybe in a week or two, we'll see your shot. It's gonna be fun. Let's kick back. You guys got it. I'll stand up here. We'll keep going. So in this, going back to film a little bit more, and this is the sequel, Garfield, The Tale of Two Kitties, the director or the animators were told that they had to push all their expressions, all their animations, about 10 to 15% in order for it to read once it finally got to render. So they never actually got to see what their poses were. You had to train an animator to animate something further than they thought was right in order to see what was right. And then also, as directors are seeing this, they're still seeing, let's see, do I have a lasery thingy? I don't. This part. And being like, those poses look screwed up. Like, there's no way I'm gonna improve that. And they're like, no, trust us. It's gonna be fine. In a week or two, or a month or two, or when you see it in the screen, it's gonna look way better, I promise. Yeah, no, thank you. I think we would all much prefer to be the ones seeing all the fur, seeing all the characters, seeing everything fully realized. And I know that some of this might be a little bit of pipe dream, which I don't think it is. We're never gonna be able to be fully parallelized working together. There's always gonna be some dependencies, but it doesn't mean we have to wait for all those dependencies to be fully complete before we start using we very liberally there, but everybody. One of the nice things about delivering in real time, one of the nice things about delivering in a real-time way like this, period. I don't know, sorry, I screwed up the code on there. Being able to work together all the way to the end and not like I have to rush my thing so that the next team can start so that we can get on time. Being able to work together, and then you feel actually much closer to the story because you're all telling that story together. You're not just kind of cranking out next shot or next scene or next animation. All right, so let's jump into a bit more specifics. What does this mean for animators to animate art directly in context? Here's a scene from the Valley of the Ancient demo that we released for early access. And we worked with the Aaron Sims Creative Company on this. In fact, they animated this entire character, both the cinematic moments and all of the gameplay 100% in Unreal. You'll see, we're seeing the effects, we're seeing it climb out of this boulder, or the mounds. We have a pose library. We iterated with them on the pose library as kind of a core concept of the engine. And they were able to make minute decisions in a daily session because they had the information there. So there's a moment when originally when we were working on this, when this is my, we're doing this. When he climbs out of the thing, and then he steps forward, and he kind of stepped in like this. And we're like, you know what? We already had kind of the smoke effects, all that things in there, and we wanted the light to hit a certain way, and we wanted to read a more dynamic pose. So, like, hey, can we tweak it to be like this? And we're like, yeah. We grabbed the foot control, moved it forward, shifted the weight. Maybe the pose wasn't perfect, but we got our moments that we can iterate on later. And then we're like, all right, we need to tweak the shoulders a little bit because we want to hit this rim light just right. The amount of iterations that would have had to happen in order to make those artistic decisions would have been, I mean, days, weeks, whoever. And in this case, this isn't a game scenario. I mean, this is a cinematic moment in a game. So let's take another look at this. My favorite, I love this meerkat. This is, well, this is a meerkat, I said it already, I'm getting my brain. This is a shot that I had Fred, if any of y'all went to his session yesterday on animating in UE5, you're probably aware of a lot of these things. And I asked him, hey, I'm gonna play the role of a director here and say, can you just take this motion and have the meerkat be a little bit more apprehensive, a little bit more fearful when it comes out instead of being a bit more direct. And this GIF is about 15 seconds long. In that time, he was able to, let's see, he used a tween tool, pulled up some tweens using some of our tween sliders that we just added in 5.1, manipulating some curves on an additive track. He was able to apply this control rig directly onto animation that was originally animated in Maya and make that change, like I said, in 15 seconds. If you're able to make changes that fast, you change daily sessions from, all right, so the director said this thing, I'm gonna take the best notes I can, and I'm gonna tell my leads, this is the change the directors want, and then the leads are gonna go tell our team, this is the change that the lead wanted, and then they're going to execute it, and then eventually it gets back to the director, and they're like, that's not at all what I asked. It changes dailies, weekly sessions from that to, hey, let's change it. Is this what we were talking about? Or like, a little bit more. We change it, great, awesome, I'll polish it later, but now we're all talking the same language. You get to spend more time creating, less time working. All right, let's talk about rigging. My background is rigging, so there may be a few more slides here, but let's get straight to it. Does this look familiar, anyone? Yeah, I think we've all been here. Why is it that there always seems to be this contentious relationship between riggers and animators? I think the chuckle that I got in the room tells a lot. It says, yeah, this is pretty familiar. Well, what the heck is a rigger? Or is it a tech animator, creature TD, simulation artist, pipeline developer, digital janitor? What are they? I think it's a really tricky part. Are you before and like early in the project? Are you after? Are you both? And then they're like, wait, I need you to modify the software so that I can do my job because I don't have the script to do this. Cool, so write some tools. They're like, actually, this other project needs those. Great, so I'll do distribution. And then pretty soon, no one really knows what you do, but I mean, you look cool. That's my cool. You have to ask yourself, do I support the animator or do I support the animation? So often, rigs get created, these big monolithic rigs, because they need to account for early in the project, you read a script or you read the game design, like, okay, so this character needs to go through all these motions and do all these things. And then an animator's like, actually, I really prefer all those controls to be purple. Like, all right, I'll make a variant, so you have purple controls. You're like, I really don't like circles, I want these ones to be square. All right, I'll make it so you can make square circles and purple, red things. And then halfway through the project, actually we changed the game design, and I know we made it so we have all these like custom-y things in there, but we never use those. So you throw away 20% of the actual work that went into that rig because you never use it. You thought you might need it, but you don't. And the script rank changed, so now you have 20% more work that you have to do later, which then breaks all the animations. You build a pipeline, so it fixes all the animations. It's just this process where you kind of get stuck, and the riggers finally just screw it. I'm just gonna make sure that the animation works, that we have some consistency there, and then the animators feel stifled, and they feel like they're not able to do the acting, the performance they want to create. Once again, we're talking about story, we're talking about art, not assets on a disk. So we need to make sure that the process is as pure as possible. Why not both? Let's do both. Let's support the art and support the artist. I'm going to talk a little feature-y stuff here. With Unreal 5, I want to say that we're in a position where you can rig in parallel with animation, you can do reactive and proactive developments, and you can kind of do much of that stuff in parallel. You can do that in a few ways. You can build in layers. So a good example is, let's say you provide animation with a very basic humanoid rig. And they're like, cool, well, you know it's gonna be a robot, right? And you're like, I get it. And it can look like a robot, they can animate it. And then on top, you can create another rig that layers on top that does all the pistons and all the gears and all the stuff. So the animator never needs to worry about that. And you can also say, you know what, I'm gonna create 3 fidelities of rigs. I'm gonna create one that's just 5 points, full body IK, so I can start doing quick posing. And then swap it back to bones, then apply a full character rig that does all the detail. Now to have fingers, you can get like, I need that fingernail control. You can get all that stuff, but you don't have to carry all of those things all at once. You can say, I'm gonna use the right tool for the right job when I wanna use it. So you have much lighter rigs, but still all the same control. This is another example of, let me see, play again. Oh no, spoilers, don't look. All right, well look, it doesn't matter. The previous slide, the little video is just showing all the procedural mechanisms that were animated as secondary control rigs. So all the gearing in the belly, the the pistons, all the armor sliding, all that stuff was stuff animators didn't have to worry about. It all just kind of solved as the animator was animating. And then at any point, an animator could say, you know what, actually, I want to grab this and keyframe it a little bit. Great, it's already sitting in place, keyframe. The reason I said all that without going back is because this is kind of related. This is art directable procedural rigs. Being able to generate procedural motion. In this case, we have harmonics, some physics, and all it's doing is it's driving controls. You can then grab, promote to hero control, or just let it simulate. So at any point, you're able to go back and forth between kind of a physicalized motion or keyframes. You know what, let's just scratch that word or. Let's say and. You can do both of those things. You don't have to choose one or the other. In this case, the slider's above this lovely Kraken. By the way, Krakens, everyone loves Krakens, right? Those sliders manipulate physical properties. What are the harmonics of my tentacles? What are the, people are used to seeing that type of stuff, but rarely are they used to seeing it in runtime. Now let's put this into a scenario where you have that perfect animation and this thing scampers, Kraken scamper. It scampers towards you and attacks. Well, it'd be really cool if the terrain was a little rougher. So now you can add another controller layer on top that says, automatically adjust my feet just on this thing. I don't have to run that as part of a fully integrated rig, as part of a fully integrated, I already said fully integrated rig. You don't have to build it all as this monolithic thing. You can do these little pieces when you need it. And that'll apply for both games and film. I try and teach a lot of folks that are more on the film side that using these types of tools means I can take mocap, throw on a little rig that's fully, this is fully runtime. It's always solving. It's essentially a solver. And put that mocap on a hill, and suddenly my character's walking up a hill. And maybe that's not your final motion. Maybe you make that and push it back to Maya because that's where your tools are. That's totally fine. You're using that as a way to generate data to get you faster to the point where you're telling stories. I like to say that we need to get away from animating a lion to Simba, or animating a cat to turn it into a lion, and then you add the personality that is Simba and get from animating the lion to Simba. I want to do the creative parts. I want to do the part where I get to put my personality into it. Another piece is retargeting. So often I get the question, well, what did you name your bones? How many bones do you have in your spine? Well, mine, I have 3. I was like, well, I have 7. We're like, it's nice to meet you. We're not going to be compatible. Sorry. And as studios grow, the amount of money that gets put into motion capture and databases is it's insane. You have this library of animation that then just kind of gets deprecated. Like, I don't know humans that get deprecated, and now you have a new motion model like that. That performance still exists. Why can't I use that motion again? And also, why can't I use that motion to create something new and unique? Why does it have to just go from human to human? Why can't it go octopus to gorilla and a monkey? There's no reason why it can't. It's because we've been trained that we can't. Haven't we done this before? Aren't we already doing this? You look at Andy Serkis, he's this thing. Make him a monkey or a gorilla or whatever, someone can correct me. Or in my 15 minutes of fame, running around as a raptor for Jurassic World. Yeah, but we still treat it bipedal. Or how many times have you seen someone take a wolf and they're like, I want to animate this wolf and I need to characterize it in Mobu. And so they do this. Right? Does that look familiar? Hopefully not. I'm sorry if it does. But I have seen that repeatedly because they're like, the only way we can do this is if we get that wolf into a T-pose. And now all your deformations are broken. Like you're compromising your art for the sake of the tools. Like, make the tools work for your art. And then that's what we're trying to talk about here. We're saying, let's just say, I want to use this motion in a new way. Treat motion as motion and abstract it away from skeletons. I think skeletons are often holding us back. So this is actually something we just did in UE5. We completely refactored our retargeting tool set. And now you can just say, this is a limb, this is a limb. You know, this is right arm, this is right arm. Or this is right arm and this is right tentacle. And you guys know about each other now. And I just want you to push the motion over. I don't care about how many bones you have. I don't care how many like extra simulation stuff you have. Just push it over. And be like, cool, yeah, let's run around as a wolf. Let's bring it all back. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do with our tools is bring storytellers back to the story so everyone's working together and contributing in that moment, being creative and not just filling out spreadsheets and checking checkboxes, but actually being storytellers. And again, I have to reiterate, every one of you is a storyteller. That's why you're here. It's not just to do your work and then move on to the next thing. Thank you very much. I would love to answer any questions that you have.